It's 2:13 in the morning. The factory is still working. Metal moves down the line. A yellow arm reaches in, twists, and welds the same tiny seam it welded 12 seconds ago. Then it does it again, and again. The strange thing isn't the robot. It's the chair beside it. The chair is empty. A lunchbox is still tucked underneath. A child's drawing is taped to the locker. But the person who once stood here isn't needed for this part of the job tonight. Now pull the camera back. This isn't one robot in one factory. China had just over 2 million industrial robots operating in 2024. Roughly 2 out of every 5 factory robots on Earth. And in that same year, China installed 295,000 more. That was more than every other country combined. So the easy story is, China has already automated everything. Except it hasn't. In fact, one of the biggest statistics used to prove China's robot takeover was quietly withdrawn and replaced with a much smaller number. No robots vanished, no factories closed, the maths changed. And that little correction reveals the real story. China is winning the race to build robots in huge numbers, while still chasing the hardest parts that make those robots truly world-class. First, forget the dancing metal people you see online. Most factory robots don't have faces. They don't make coffee, they don't hold meetings, and they definitely don't sit around wondering what their purpose is. A normal industrial robot is closer to a very strong arm that remembers one move perfectly. Pick up this piece. Turn it this way. Weld here. Put it down. Repeat that movement all night without getting bored, distracted, or sore. That sounds simple. It isn't. If the arm misses by a few millimeters, it can ruin the part. If it moves too slowly, the whole line waits. If it fails, hundreds of machines behind it may stop as well. That is why factories care about more than the price on the box. They care about accuracy, speed, how long the joints last, whether spare parts arrive, and whether the machine can run safely beside people. China's advantage is not that it invented the robot arm. Japan, Europe, and the United States built deep expertise over decades. China's advantage is that it built the place where enormous numbers of robots could be made, sold, repaired, and put straight to work. Factories sit near parts suppliers. Robot makers sit near factories. Engineers learn from breakdowns. The next machine gets cheaper, then another factory can afford one. It becomes a loop. And once that loop starts moving, it is very hard to catch. Here is where the story gets weird. In November 2024, the International Federation of Robotics published a number that raced around the world. China, it said, had 470 robots for every 10,000 manufacturing workers. That appeared to place China ahead of Germany and Japan. News headlines loved it. The message was clean. China had become one of the most automated manufacturing countries on Earth. Then, in April 2026, the scoreboard changed. The old figure was withdrawn. A revised report put China at 166 robots for every 10,000 workers. That pushed China much further down the international ranking. What happened? The robots were still there. The problem was the worker count underneath the calculation. Think of it like sharing a pizza. If you think 4 people are coming, everyone gets a big slice. If 12 people walk through the door, the same pizza suddenly looks much smaller. The old calculation used a worker base that excluded a huge part of China's private and rural manufacturing workforce. Updated labor data counted far more workers, same machines, bigger denominator, smaller ratio. That correction matters because 2 things can be true at once. China can own more factory robots than any other country in total, and still have many factories and workers that are nowhere near fully automated. The corrected number does not make China weak. It makes the story more interesting. China's robot boom isn't finished. It may still be near the beginning. So why keep buying robots at this speed? Because China has a people problem hiding inside a manufacturing success story. For years, factories could grow by hiring millions of workers moving from the countryside into industrial cities. That supply is no longer endless. China's population is aging. Its working-age population is shrinking. Younger workers have more choices, and many do not want a lifetime of lifting, welding, polishing, or standing beside a hot machine for 10 hours. Imagine running a factory that must deliver the same number of products next year, but fewer people apply for the night shift. You have three choices: pay more, make less, or give the most repetitive work to machines and move people into jobs that require judgment, maintenance, and problem solving. That does not mean every worker calmly walks into a better role. Some jobs disappear, some people retrain, some towns adjust quickly, others do not. A robot is easy to describe on a government plan. A family losing a steady wage is not. That is why the empty chair matters. Automation can protect a factory's output while making one worker's future feel less certain. Both outcomes can happen at the same time. For China, the national calculation is blunt. If fewer workers are coming, each worker, helped by machines, must produce more. And China has spent years building the supply chain to make that possible. 10 years ago, most robots sold inside China came from foreign companies. Chinese brands held roughly 28% of their home market. By 2023, that had climbed to 47%. Then came the crossover. In 2024, Chinese manufacturers supplied 57% of the industrial robots sold in China. For the first time, the home team had the majority. How did they do it? Not with one magical invention. They made robots cheaper. They built service teams close to customers. They learned what a food plant needs, what an electronics line needs, and what a small metal shop can actually afford. That opened doors the expensive machines could not. A giant car factory can justify a premium robot. A noodle factory or furniture workshop may need something simpler, cheaper, and easy to repair. But do not confuse a majority with total victory. In metal and machinery, Chinese suppliers were extremely strong. In food and drink, they were strong too. But in the demanding automotive market, Chinese suppliers held only about 31% in 2024. Cars require brutal speed, precision, and reliability. A tiny delay repeated thousands of times becomes a very expensive problem. So China has won the volume game in many parts of its market. The hardest factories are still a test, and the reason is hidden inside the robot's joints. Look at a robot arm from across the room and it seems simple. Open the joint and you find the real battle. There is a motor, a controller, bearings, sensors, magnets, a precision gearbox that turns fast spinning into slow, powerful movement without wobbling. These parts must fit together almost perfectly. A cheap arm that works for 6 months is not cheap if it stops a car line every Tuesday. China has made enormous progress here. Domestic suppliers now make a growing share of reducers, motors, and controllers. China also holds a powerful position in the rare earth supply chain used for high-performance permanent magnets. Roughly 60% of mining, 91% of refining, and 94% of magnet production, according to the cited industry assessments. But control over materials is not the same as mastery of every finished component. Japanese and European firms still lead in some high-end reducers, servo systems, and machines expected to survive years of punishment with extraordinary accuracy. China's strategy is to close that gap the same way it closed others. Buy, build, test, fail, improve, and do it at a scale nobody else can easily match. That is less dramatic than a humanoid robot doing a backflip. It is also far more important. The company that controls the boring little part inside the joint can control the speed, reliability, and profit of the entire machine. Here is the part the victory videos usually skip. China can sell huge numbers of robots and still struggle to make much money from them. Competition inside China is savage. Dozens of manufacturers chase the same customers. Prices fall, margins get squeezed. A company may win market share by earning almost nothing on each machine. Take Estun, one of China's leading industrial robot companies. Its 2025 revenue was about 4.89 billion yuan. Profit attributable to shareholders was about 41.34 million yuan. That is a net margin of roughly 0.85%, less than 1 cent of profit for every yuan of revenue. Big sales, tiny cushion. Trade tells a similar story. China became a net exporter of industrial robots in 2025, according to Chinese customs data. That is a real milestone. But one detailed snapshot from April 2026 showed China exporting far more robots at a much lower average value, while importing fewer machines at a much higher average value. In plain English, China sells many of the affordable machines and still buys some of the expensive ones. Volume has moved first. The highest value edge is still contested. That is why the next few years matter. If Chinese firms improve durability and precision without losing their cost advantage, the rest of the industry has a serious problem. If they cannot, China may dominate unit sales, while foreign companies keep the most profitable work. The winner will not be decided by who makes the most impressive demo. It will be decided by which machine is still working on a wet, dusty factory floor after its 10,000th shift. By sunrise, the arm from our opening has made thousands of identical movements. A person walks back onto the floor, not to repeat the weld, to inspect it, fix it, change the program, decide what happens when the part is wrong. That is the future China is trying to build. Fewer people doing the most repetitive work, more machines keeping output high, and a domestic industry selling those machines to the world. It won't be simple. Some workers will gain safer, better paid jobs. Others will be pushed out faster than they can retrain. Some robot companies will become global giants. Many will vanish after burning through cash. And the statistics will keep trying to turn this messy human story into one clean number. Do not let them. The old density headline made China look completely automated. The corrected figure showed how much factory work is still done by people. The installation numbers show breathtaking scale. The profit numbers show brutal competition. The supply chain shows real strength. The precision gap shows unfinished business. Here is the big question. Is China taking over robotics? In sales volume, China has already changed the map. The hardest technology and the best profits are still up for grabs. Those 2 million machines aren't a promise about tomorrow. They are tomorrow arriving early. One joint, one factory, one empty chair at a time.